Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wisdom Seeker Live, our weekly episode. And glad to have you join us. Just a couple of admin duties here. Just remember, as you join us, to be sure to share where you're joining from. It's always interesting to us and our guests to know where our audience is from. And then, of course, really encourage you to share thoughts and questions in the comments because we want to hear from you and engage with you. And as usual, I like to just define, we're about wisdom and what we see wisdom as, and Wisdom Seeker Live is a journey. It's not an event; it's a journey, and it starts with knowledge, and we get that from whatever source we choose to do so and take that knowledge and build on it. Hopefully, not just stop with the knowledge, but the next step is we gain understanding, or in other words, experience. And that's where we begin to take that knowledge and apply it in our day to day lives and begin to gain some insight into that knowledge and how it works. And then the last step in the journey is that we then move into the area of wisdom. And the big distinguishment there is that we want to begin to see everything from a much, much bigger perspective, a perspective outside of ourselves. And for those of us that have a spiritual bent, we want to strive to see things through God's eyes, so that we can understand that what we know, how we apply it, affects not just us, but others, and be thoughtful and considerate of that. Welcome, Dr. Jesmond from Japan. Glad to have you. Well, and without any further delay, I want to bring on our special guest, a good friend, Russ Johns. Russ and I have crossed paths in multiple ways and times, and across different platforms. And it's funny because we've been doing this for a while, and we're just now getting around to talking to each other a bit. And so, Russ, share a little bit about yourself with our audience, and then we'll take it from there.
Oh, Kevin, thank you so much for having me on. I'm glad that we finally had the opportunity to catch up. It's
Yeah.
been a minute. And we've been, speaking of wisdom, we have acquired a little bit over the year of or two of live streaming and making these connections, having conversations. So thank you so much for having me. I've been doing this like yourself for a minute or two, and so I just excited for the opportunity to engage. And thank you so much for having me.
Very good. Well, we some of our regulars are here. We have Rosemary from Sydney, Australia. Rosemary is kind enough to stay up late. She's late in the evening, but she's a very good regular. And we've got Sharon Bingert and Leslie Osborne. Glad to have you back, Leslie, from Ocala, and Bernhard Schreiber from Spain. And so, welcome everyone. And so we'll get into it. Russ, what we're about is gaining wisdom and sharing wisdom with each other. So tell us a little bit about some of the wisdom you have gained, whether it be about LinkedIn or some other aspect of life. Share a little bit about yourself.
Well, you bet. Uh, one of the things that I like to share on a regular basis is the fact that we all have a gift, and we all have a message. And one of the things that I love to do is share somebody that is doing something amazing. And you're actually going to be on my show next month, and I love the idea that I can share some of the things just like you're doing here, Kevin. It's really amazing that we can actually live in an environment now that we can actually broadcast like this. And because I have the pirate broadcast, a lot of people, they say, well, what's that all about? And
Yeah.
And really, historically, if you have if you've been in broadcasting and you're not licensed, you're considered a pirate broadcaster.
Oh,
And now that live streaming and all the social platforms are out there, we all have permission. We all are basically granted permission because we don't need permission any longer to broadcast. So we're all pirate broadcasters. And along those same lines, Kevin, we have an opportunity to help each other out, to offer and assist people along their journey to tell their story. And so one of the things that I've learned along the way is we all have a story. We all have a message. We all have experience that we can share and relate with each other because we're all spinning around the same rock, together here. And we're all, we're all blessed in the same way that we can be here, be up and available to each other to support each other. So I love helping each other. I love seeing people to help each other. And there again, all the people that are joining us today, everybody has a message, everybody has a gift. So it's our obligation to share it, I think.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the insight on the pirate. I was curious because I've never asked you that question. And now that I know that I'm a pirate too, hey, I need to maybe get me a Jolly Roger hat or something. Excuse me. Well, welcome, Lee. Glad to have you from New York. Lee's a regular. And Faze from India. Glad to have you. And remember,
I noticed a few friendly names. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always a challenge and fun to get to recognize our viewers because the names sometimes can be interesting, and I work real hard at that because as a kid, I say a little piece of information a lot of people don't know, and everybody knows me as Kevin, but I go by my first name is actually William. And that's the W. Yeah. And so forever as a kid, everybody was always first day of school, are you go by Bill or Billy? And I'm a shy kid and don't want to be in the spotlight. And all of a sudden I'm glaring and I'm going, oh, gee. So I'm very sensitive about people's names. So welcome, Mary Angela. Glad to see you today. Tell us more about the Pirate broadcast and what you're doing. We were talking in the background before we went live about what Russ has been up to, and he's a busy guy. So tell us a little more about that.
Well, I'm coming up, Kevin, on 500 episodes now.
Wow.
And I have a broadcast at 7 a.m. Arizona time, which is currently in Pacific Standard Time. So after this one, I'll have another one. And the reason I did this is because I started back a number of years ago. I've been a content creator for almost 2 decades now.
Okay.
And I used to do podcasting. I was in the radio business, advertising business, and so in technology. And so this came very easy to me in terms of being able to put it together. I used to live stream high school varsity sports. I used to, have a team of engineers and MCs and people that go out to these games and broadcast them on a live stream of AM radio. And when podcasting came about, I got on board with podcasting and taught podcasting and got people online and got them up and operational. And so it felt easy to me because live streaming eliminated the need to edit and do post-production.
Right.
So it's like, okay, let me go on it. And so I had a show when I was back in Houston. And so I just thought, I'm just going to continue to do this. And I grew up as a musician. So the routine of being able to be on a regular basis just allows me a way to get started in the day, highlight, talk to interesting people, and launch my day. So I decided to go, 5 days a week and just continue with that trend and put things out there. And I also have a couple of other podcasts and broadcasts that I do on the side as well. So it's just been last couple of years. I've just been doing this and continuing to highlight where I can and help people where I'm able.
Very good. Yeah, I love your tagline. What is it?
Kindness is cool and smiles are free.
There you go.
Yeah.
Love that. Especially, I like the smiles are free because we have an unlimited supply of them. Welcome, Georges Pierre and Rosemary. I count being sharing a namesake with your dad as high honor. It was also my dad's name. So I'm not ashamed of being William. I just wish I had been able to use it from the beginning. But anyway, that's some of life's challenges, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to tell that it is unusual that I am in front of a camera. Okay, because when the video capability first came out on LinkedIn, I was terrified. And I had a hard time. I had people that had to finally kind of almost back me in a corner and say, okay, are you going to do this or not? And a good friend, Judd Borico, finally said, look, just do a video. Don't try to edit it. Don't try to just do it and post it quickly. And finally I did. And funny now, I'm comfortable outside of my original comfort zone. What do you encounter with your guests and all about overcoming that camera shyness?
We all have it. And Kevin, back even in the radio days where it's just audio, everybody, when they first hear their own voice on the air or they first hear it recorded, it's like, oh, is that what I sound like? It's like, oh, I can't stand that.
Yeah.
And then when you're on the camera, it's the same thing. It's like, I just don't like how I look on camera. And I tell people, I said, I've earned these wrinkles. I've earned this look, and it's the experience that has taught me well. And I was, we're all, we all have our little nuances of what we do and how we talk and how we act, and it just makes it permanent when you're on camera and you're recording. And so you have to really just realize, hey, and it goes back to my original point. We all have a gift. We all have a message. We all have something that we can share. And it's like waiting in line. Somebody's in front of us and somebody's behind us. And as you get experience and wisdom, you will improve your skills. You will improve and get more comfortable with it. And it's like the first time you ride a bike. You may not necessarily be a perfect rider when you first start. You may not be a perfect musician when you first pick up an instrument. You may not be the perfect writer when you first pick up a pen. However, practice. And if you want to, and it feels good and it helps you achieve your result of helping others or influencing or making an impact on the world, that's what we can do. And so it's the greater good outweighs the ego of the fear. Because faith and fear require us to believe in something we can't see.
Yeah.
So let's lean into it.
Yeah. Last episode, we actually talked about fear. And unfortunately, there's a pervasive fear out in the world right now with everything going on. And so I've been really focused to try to say, look, folks, fear, we need a healthy fear. Okay. Sure. Don't touch that hot thing because it'll burn you. That's a healthy fear.
Don't play play in traffic.
That's right. My mama said, don't play in traffic.
Yeah.
But we, this right now, my sense is we've got a lot of people that are just living in fear and making decisions based in that fear. And it's just not a good place. So, I appreciate you bringing that up. And in fact, one of the things on our show that we are open to discuss is faith, because, I think a part of wisdom comes from faith, and it is a key to surviving in our current world. I marvel at people that don't consider anything spiritual or faith, I wonder how they survive, because it's such a key element in my life, and apparently the lives of a lot of those that join this podcast every week. And by the way, apparently your quote, kindness is cool and smiles are free is popular. Lee and Rosemary want to borrow that and use it, apparently.
Well, you know how on Facebook history will pop up, and I've been using that for a number of years, and happy to share it, just like I am happy to share a smile now and then. So
Yeah, it goes a long way.
It goes a long way.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. That's part of faith, Kevin. Is miracles happen every single day. We're surrounded by miracles. And what happens is you have to be willing to notice it. You have to be willing to recognize it for what it is.
Yeah.
Because how many times have you had an instance where a second before or a second after would make a difference in your world?
Oh, yeah. I'm with you there, Russ. In fact, it was my wife and I were driving yesterday and making an observation about a place that we drive by all the time. And it occurred to me that I drive by it so much, I don't even know what we were talking about, the condition it was in. And I'm going, wow, I don't know. And I think we do life that way a lot. We're on autopilot.
Yep.
And we miss it. We miss those really great miracles that do indeed happen very regularly, because we just aren't tuned in. And so got a couple of comments from our audience like to pop up there. Lee says, the only thing I'm perfect in is not being perfect. I'm there with you, Lee. I think I've got a hat or two and a couple of t-shirts on that one. And then Leslie observes, life without passion and purpose outside of yourself is a life unfilled. Yeah, I agree. I'm glad. I like your wordage, because for me, a basis for us is finding our design, passion, and purpose. That helps lay the foundation for everything else.
Yeah.
And then let's see here. We've got a comment, and I believe this is Sharon, because Sharon's, for whatever reason, Sharon's name on StreamYard shows up as LinkedIn user. She says, a random act of kindness goes a very long way, especially to someone who has never been shown any. I also believe in paying it forward. My husband and I believe in that. Yeah. We've got a lot of hungry people, hungry to be appreciated, hungry to be encouraged. How do you go about? You're obviously purposeful in being an encourager, sharing smiles. What are some tips that you use in that regard?
Well, I mean, it can be simple act. It can be as simple as, I always have a habit of returning a cart when I'm in the grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Opening the doors, saying please and thank you. Having gratitude for everything I have instead of being resentful for what I don't have. It's the simple things in life that we seldom think about. Like you said, we're on autopilot. So if we can take a moment and just recognize how blessed we are, how bountiful life is, rather than thinking about how much lack there is. And I think that it's really, if you present that in your life and you live that way, and you can see the opportunity for good things to happen rather than looking for the bad things to happen, it's a habit. It's a daily habit, and it's a daily practice. And I think if people were to continue to practice that and enjoy the idea that things are exactly where they need to be, because a lot of life is outside our control. So rather than complaining and seeing it as in a disparaging way, we have to, I imagine, imagine that things are exactly where they are because of the things we're doing.
Mm.
And if you want to be different, if you want to have different, you have to be different.
Yeah. Well, one of the things as I have matured, shall we say, um, I guess at least gotten older. I don't know, matured. There's still a question about that at times.
I'm never going to grow up.
Well, we need the faith of a child and the wisdom of a sage, and the faith of a child hopefully keeps us where we have some of that childlike view. But just you know, taking the time to keep it simple and to be intentional.
Yeah.
Again, this thing of being on autopilot just really boggles my mind. But I've been there. Now though that I make choices not to be on autopilot, the world looks different. Really does. So let's see. Got a comment from Leslie. She says, "Keep your eyes open. These miracles are right in front of you." Um, yeah, just
Absolutely.
the miracle of life. I mean, that alone is a good starting point. And
Yeah.
then Georgia shared a comment, says, "I must not fear. Fear is a mind killer. Fear is a little death that brings total obliteration. I'll face my fear. I'll permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it's gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear's gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain." Yeah, fear. Tell me, Russ, if this is your experience. For me, so often all the fears that I build up in my head, majority of time, not only are they not do bad things not happen, nothing happens. Is that your experience?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I would almost argue that focusing on the fear almost has a way of manifesting the outcome.
Mm.
And so I think it was someone smarter than myself wrote that fear and worry were like paying for a debt we'll never owe.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that um, we can do it, obviously, and
Hmm.
there's a reason, like you said, to have common sense and a fear of things that can harm us, and be wary, be aware. However, going into fear and some of the things that we get trapped in our lives, like things that we may not directly have any control over, if we don't have control over it, why would we want to spend the energy
Mm.
in fearing it? Um, we can only be reactive and responsive to what actually happens. And I think it's much wiser to be prepared and aware of things that are taking place around us, than rather than fear. And make sure that you have an awareness, but you don't necessarily spend a lot of time fearing it.
Yeah.
Uh, it's some of the things. It's like thinking of, oh, the boogeyman's going to get me. The aliens, or maybe the zombies are coming. But it's like,
Where's my tinfoil hat?
yeah, where's my tinfoil hat? And so we just have to have an acute awareness of what we can control. And I think one of the superpowers that we have, Kevin, is resiliency.
Mm.
I'm sure that you've lived through a number of circumstances in your world that you didn't have control over, that made a major impact that you would prefer not to happen.
Right.
And through those experiences comes wisdom, and
Uh-huh.
some of the things that we have, and some of the most tragic circumstances in my life is the foundation of growth.
Mm.
And so you have to think to yourself, it's okay, was this happening to me, or was this happening for me?
Mm.
And sometimes the lessons we learn are caused by the circumstances we experience, and the growth that takes place through that experience is who we become as we gain wisdom.
Right. Yeah. And I think that one of the key pieces to go from experience to wisdom is that effort, the intent to step back and look again, not just at our own selves and what's going on, but the bigger world around us. How does it factor in? How does it affect other people?
Mm-hmm.
And the key is the intentionality. I think that we all have lots of experience, but the reason they never transition into wisdom is because we don't take the time to face them, to learn from them, and find out what they're about. And it's just a process we have to get in the habit of. One of the things I've encouraged wisdom seekers, from the very beginning, we did a 40-day challenge when I started this back in January. And the 40-day challenge is to disconnect, okay, get away from the noise in our lives. And it varies depending on the person. I will still maintain that we are one of the key noises for most of us right now is media, news media in particular, but disconnect and then observe and stop. And as the old saying goes, stop and smell the roses, really look at what's going on. And then from there, where can I get wisdom? As we stop and observe, where's the wisdom in it? What is the bigger picture of it? And I really believe, and you've just, you're sharing that same concept, that's the way we grow. And I think that having that wisdom also brings two other byproducts. You tell me if you think this is right or not. Or one of that is discernment. Okay. Anymore, I don't have to necessarily see every detail or know everything about a situation at times, not to know there's something not right or something very right about it. And that's discernment. And then the other is, and we call it common sense. I think that's wisdom. And of course, unfortunately, I think because we're not as focused on gaining some wisdom in life, common sense is, as they say, common sense ain't so common no more. So,
amen.
Well, and you mentioned something that I'm hot on it, and Rosemary picked up on it. She shares a comment, says, my mom has been gone for almost 30 years. I know if I didn't use my manners, she would still find a way to make me slow down and go back to say thank you. Talk a little bit about manners. I really think we need to revisit that as well.
Yeah. Kevin, I can't amplify enough the use of courtesy. And like you mentioned, common sense. We have all of the tools necessary. And I think a lot of what we're seeing in society, especially on the media, is a direct result of us getting a little less influence from courtesy, empathy, and compassion. There's a lot of reports that circumstances are escalated, people are getting escalating out of control, for lack of a better description. And I think it goes back to just having a little common courtesy, having some manners and respect for each other for where they are.
Right.
Not all of us are, living in the same world at the same time. There's a lot of things that take place. And I want to go back to this idea that sometimes these things in our lives happen. They're happening for us. And when we don't recognize the lesson and the experience, it's going to continue to happen to us until we get the lesson, until we understand what the what the information is that we need to learn and take and hold on to. There's a lot of people say, why is this always happening to me? Why is this always happening to me? It's because you haven't learned the lesson that experience is attempting to teach you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ultimate responsibility for yourself and being kind and considerate and having empathy and compassion will take you further down the road than anything else that you can acquire in your life. If you don't know something, you can always gain experience, and you gain experience by being considerate toward others and having the openness and the intention to be willing to learn. And people will teach you, people will help you all day long as you're open to that help and assistance. And I think having some manners and common courtesy can go so much further if you're willing to be open to it.
I don't know if you know Ash Plaisted from Australia.
Yeah.
Ash, one of the things, and I don't know if we'll ever get it off the ground, but from time to time we visit the idea of starting a campaign, hashtag Make Manners Great Again. And, to really push that, because like you said, if we approach relationships and situations with a manners, consideration, respect, boy, things go very differently. It doesn't necessarily mean that we'll have this grand relationship with someone necessarily, or even agree with them, but at least we avoid the contention, the animosity, things that don't have to happen. And so key, in fact, a couple of comments, Sharon comments, and I like this as a practice, she gives out kindness cards. She's part of Global Goodwill Ambassador. And it's always fun to catch people off guard and cause them to smile. And of course, Leslie reminds us, I know this is old world, but the golden rule still works, folks.
It still works.
It really does. And, it's golden for a reason. And, I'm all about change and understanding and growing, but don't change just because of change. And one that we don't need to change but do need to appreciate is the golden rule, treating people decently and so on. Leslie also comments that we should stop, reassess, and resume. Yeah. That's got to be about what we do. How do you do that for yourself on a regular basis, Russ?
I take time out for myself. I have, I'm here in Arizona. I'm a caregiver. I moved to Arizona to care for mom and dad.
Oh, okay.
And, dad passed away last year. And so, having some respect and reverence for life and the ones that we've lost, and, the people that are that need assistance, having compassion for somebody that is unable or less fortunate, and that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It's not always what you expect. And so just taking, like Leslie said, just reassess. And what it really means to me is taking time to actually reflect on what I have gratitude for, what I'm thankful for, what I'm blessed with, and just thanking and saying a prayer for somebody that's less fortunate, like the people in Louisiana right now.
Right.
There's a lot of friends that I have in that neck of the woods that, we have to put our hearts out to them, and, people in other parts of the world. Afghanistan's a big place right now. There's a lot of people in a lot of pain right now. And so when you see that and you can actually reflect on how blessed you are, how blessed we are, Kevin, then it causes you to pause for a moment and say, thank you.
Yeah. One of the things that I practice and I encourage people, if you're struggling, if you just stop, and the old fashioned saying is count your blessings.
Yeah.
On our worst day, on our very worst day, we have blessings to count. Um, Even people, sometimes we want to be told that poor people, disadvantaged people don't have blessings. Well, if nothing else, if they're breathing and alive, that's a blessing. And then many times when we stop and consider it, there are lots of blessings, even on our worst day. And
Yeah.
when I tell people, when we count our blessings, it's hard to be mad. It's hard to be unhappy. It's hard to be a lot of negative things when you start
Yeah.
counting your blessings.
Yeah.
And it is really impactful. Uh, well, and interesting, Rosemary shares a little bit about, I think this is in reference to manners. People know never to use slang terms around me. Respect is important. The use of slang degrades the speaker as much degrades the listener. Yeah, how we voice ourselves is important. As the saying goes, when we say something, there's two hearers, ourselves and others.
Yeah.
And, being respectful of our words and how we use them goes a long way to demonstrate respect for other people. And it makes a huge difference because right now with our what I, seems to be a hostile world, that's the feeling I get. People at each other all the time, but when you can be respectful and, like you say, smile, uh, it really impacts people, even if it's just for a moment. And welcome to Ann and Karen. Glad to have you with us. Ann has become a regular. Karen has been a long-time regular. Glad to have you here with us. Let's see here. Um, and Leslie makes the comment. She says, self-care is new to me. Now pay attention to this. I always had myself at the bottom of the list. Yeah, I understand, Leslie, especially as Russ was talking about being a caregiver. It's easy to get caught up as a caregiver and lose sight of taking care of ourselves. One of my trainings and current aspect of my life is military. And one of the things drilled into us is you've got to take care of yourself or you become part of the problem. You go from being a helper to a casualty, and that's not good for anybody. And
Right.
and I like to always, though, caution that self-care is not about ego. It's not about selfishness. It's about just taking care so that we have something to give to other people. Your thoughts on that one?
Oh, I can't agree more. And I was relating to this thought a few minutes ago when we were talking about, people being down and out. And I have to say two things. Then I'll come back to the question is some of my happiest times in my life have been when I've had little or nothing.
Mm, yeah,
And so happiness and stuff aren't necessarily hand in hand. So, and then the second part of that, Kevin, is the idea that it's really difficult to feel sorry for ourselves when we're helping somebody else.
mm,
And so
so
lifting
true.
other people up around us can help us lift ourselves up.
Mm,
And so, having that and helping ourselves is really it's part of that self-care. And also, as someone that provides self-care, there's moments where we feel exhausted and feel as if we need to recharge.
right.
And so you can't feel guilty about the idea that we have to recharge. It's just like the battery in your car. You have to those things. You need gas in the tank, you need air in the tires, you need charging the battery, and people are no different. We
Mm.
need to continue to refresh and think about how we can take care of ourselves so we can take care of others.
Yeah, it's funny because one of the lessons that I've had to learn, and tell me if this is your experience, as someone that likes to give and has a bent in that direction, one of the things, though, I have had to learn is, yeah, I'm about giving and I'll give of myself as far as I can. But what I have to be willing to do is also receive. And for a long
Mm,
time, I struggled. Oh, I'm fine. I'll take care of me, blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
And what I finally realized is when I do that, part of that is selfish because to receive blessing from someone else is a bit humbling.
Hmm.
But when we refuse it, we're robbing other people of blessings. And
Yep.
so, again, it's selfish if we're not careful. And I really think that we need to remember those of us that are about giving at times be willing to receive. What's your experience with that?
I I like I, I like the idea that we can give and receive. Although there's a lot of situations in my life, and maybe you can relate to this, that if you're the anchor in the environment and the community, and you have to be the one that's standing up strong and setting the example, it's really hard to take off the mask and say, hey, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to ask for help, and it's hard to say, I it's hard to not say I got this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay. Everything's good. And so when we get in that mode, and I've been there and done that, there are times where it wears on you, and unless you're, and it goes back to filling the tank. It goes back to recharging and allowing people, like you said, the opportunity and the blessing to share with you what they care to give. Because
Mm-hmm.
like we started out with, people enjoy helping people. People enjoy helping each other. And unless we're doing this going back and forth, what's the point? If you
Mm-hmm.
can't give and receive, then it's kind of one-sided, it's a positive and a negative. If
Right.
you're the one always giving and never receiving, eventually you're gonna run out of juice there.
Yeah.
So
Comments from our participants, and talks about that self-care isn't selfish, that if we don't take care of ourselves, become part of the problem.
yeah,
Bernhard says self-care is fundamentally being able and in a position to be able to help others. Yeah, if we don't, like Russ was saying, if we don't have a full battery, it's hard to recharge other people. And
yeah,
let's see, Sharon offers a comment, says, I took care of my mother and didn't have time to take care of myself. She passed away in 2010. What happened was at the time, I was so focused on taking care of her that I forgot about myself. And after all was said and done, I fell apart. Yeah. Um,
yeah,
and that's especially if we're, like Russ said, we've got to be an anchor. The last thing we need to do is push to a point where we fall apart, because then everybody goes, uh-oh, well, if he's falling apart, there's no hope for the rest of us. So
yeah.
let's see. Anne makes another comment. Happiness can come from stuff, and that doesn't last forever. Joy comes from inside, and it's regardless of circumstances. Yeah, I'm with you, Anne. I
Yep.
understand the concept of happiness, but I rather have joy, because to me, happiness quite often is tied to happenings, circumstances, and so yeah, I'm with you there. Um, let's see here. Anne says, well, what I find is we've got such a great group of regulars. They also carry on
they're
conversations
talking
on.
with they're talking with each other in the
Yeah,
comments.
and
Yeah,
it's great. I love it. I
I
really
love it.
do.
I love
And
it.
I like the way Ann puts this. Yeah, we can't
We
pour.
cannot pour from an empty cup.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. That's
Amen,
a
Ann.
good one.
That is a good one.
Well, let's see. You spend a lot of time creating video content. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit.
You bet.
I know that there are a lot of people on LinkedIn that are either in not confident in creating content,
Mhm.
and maybe that's not their comfort zone. Any suggestions on how to use this platform? I mean, you do a great job of promoting kindness, smiles,
Mhm.
encouragement. How can others jump in on that? Any suggestions?
Practice.
Yeah, that T word.
Practice, Kevin. And you know it as much as anyone. We only get good at something by doing it over and over again. And there's no perfection. I'm perfectly imperfect, and I'm comfortable with that. And the reality is that there's things that we can put out there that even if you get a reaction to something, and I'm sure that you've seen something or an idea or a quote or a
Hmm.
thought that you go through in the day and you think, man, I I appreciate that.
Right,
If you appreciate it, I suspect there's somebody in your community that might appreciate it as well.
right.
And if you just take a moment and share that,
Mm,
and that's why I think it's so important for us to put out some positive information, because the news media and the outlets, they are positioned in a way that bad news travels faster than good news, right?
yeah,
I mean, that's the
sells more
statement.
ads.
Yeah. A train wreck will sell a lot faster than, something positive.
Hmm.
So, in order to combat that, I think it's all our responsibility, and I take it as a personal responsibility to pass out good news and affirmations. And I haven't owned it. This is the first television I've owned since 1995, and I use it as a backdrop for myself. And it's like, don't get caught up in the news media. Don't get caught up in the bad news,
Right,
and don't get fueled by the negative.
right.
And if you can actually find inspiration and put it out there, to counteract that negative news.
Mm,
uh, we're on a mission, and it's a battle that we need to. I think it's important to contribute to the cause and hope of other people, and seeing the good news out there and seeing the positive that goes out there in the world. And so, anytime we can actually take a moment, share something positive, and even if it lands on one person that we don't know, it's still contributing to the positive outcome.
yeah, it really does. And one of the things that is really funny, because I've been on LinkedIn for longer than I even want to count, but it wasn't until the last about 4 or 5 years that I've really gotten engaged.
Yeah.
And what propelled me to get engaged was actually not original content of mine. It was a post that I shared, and I did make my own comment about it,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing went viral. And I didn't even have any idea this was going to happen. And so my engagement started not with me creating some original something that was witty and wonderful and all that. It was sharing something that inspired me to then be able to share to inspire others with an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a great place to start.
Yeah.
So even if you're not wanting to be an original content creator, because sometimes that's a challenge.
Yeah.
People think that uh, content creators just roll this stuff out without even thinking about it. That's not true. There are days that I go, okay, what can I do today that's going to be of some value and not just filling space?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that sharing something we're inspired by with other people goes a long way. We become part of the value in doing so. Great tip.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We got some comments to get to. I like that Leslie, we're talking about being intentional. She shares an experience, and it's a simple experience, but it's an indicator of the type of thing. Let's
Yeah.
stop and enjoy creation.
Yeah.
Part of the value of creation is to observe it, and really brings us back into perspective and reminds us that we're not an accident, that we have a creator that loves us, and that there is a reason for us, including, as you've observed, sometimes the reason that we keep having to deal with the same issue is that our creator is patient enough and cares enough not to let us not learn,
Yeah.
like a good father does. So, and apparently, you got fans among my participants. Ann talks about your podcast, and apparently a mutual connection with Jake Jordan. Jake's a great guy
Yeah.
as well. Bernhard, echoes practice and learning makeup mastery. And let's see. And Leslie echoes, the imperfect is better than the perfect. Well, and in fact, I would say it's always better than the perfect, because we're not going to attain the perfect. So,
Yeah.
um,
Taking imperfect action is always better than no action at all, right?
oh yeah, every day, every way.
Yeah.
Let's see. Rosemary comments, I've learned this past few days just how many of my neighbors are happy to go out of their way to help me. They have seen me post operation, and she's had them drop by with food and fruit, and asking if they can help her with shopping and things like that. Yeah, uh, that is such a marvelous part of being in community,
Yeah.
and knowing that, hey, if I'm in need, there are going uh, they're going to be there for me. One of the values in my military service, because it's voluntary and so on, but I know that at a given moment, if I need help, that make a phone call or two and could have 10, 20, 30 people, they're ready to do whatever I needed them to help me with. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's see. Anne has a question. Says, tell us something good. Do you have an example from your lives? Okay. Russ, do you need a moment, or you got something comes right to mind on that one?
Oh, something good. I always have something good to share.
All right, we'll take it and run with it, and then I'll jump in after you get done.
I have, I am so blessed to be here with my mom.
Mm,
She's going to be 85 this year. She's on oxygen and, needs assistance. And because, our family has been very blessed to have we're a close family.
hmm
My sister's coming back. She also lives here. She moved from Tennessee. I moved from Houston via Seattle. And one of the things that I'm truly blessed with is having a loving family
mm,
that is very incredibly supportive. And one of the things that I cherish most is the ability to get on here and share something good with anyone that has the opportunity to watch and listen. And I love the creative process. When we were talking about the ability to create content or put something out there in the world, it's like not everyone's creative all the time. So if you have a creative moment,
mm,
create a number of different things and put it
hmm
in the library, save it for later. It's like the rainy day. It's like, save some for later. When you're creative, create something. When you're not creative, use something you created. And so it's necessary to, give and take and go both directions. So, I'm just feeling incredibly blessed. I'm feeling incredibly loved. And I just want to continue to share that out.
Yeah, and you do a good job of it, definitely. Well, for me, Ann, it's interesting that again, um, social media is not in the norm for me as an old guy. Most of my peers are could care less for social media. But one of the things that I value is the opportunity to do this, for example, this podcast.
Mhm.
When I first started it, I was going, people don't want to hear me regular basis. But what has happened is I just share from my heart,
Yeah.
and the people that are engaged and involved are a blessing to me. When I always when I hit the live button, I'm always wondering, am I going to be sitting here talking to myself, or if I have a guest, is it going to be a dialogue just between the two of us? And these folks, Ann and Bernhard and Sharon and Rosemary, these folks encourage me, and they are such a blessing just by their presence,
Yeah.
and appreciating the people there is so valuable. So thanks for asking that question, Ann. It's a good thing for us to ask each other. In fact, maybe that would be a good little challenge, is say, go to somebody and say, hey, how are you blessed? Or
Yeah.
what goods happen in your life? That's a little practice we should start. And I don't know, we have to think of a good hashtag.
Share your blessing.
There you go. Hashtag share your blessing. We may have to start a movement there, Russ. What do you think?
I like that. I like that. Another hashtag that I enjoy using is make it matter.
Mm,
Let's be intentional with what we're doing, and let's make sure that we understand that everything we do has a ripple effect, and
yeah.
and everything we do has an impact on somebody. So let's make it matter.
Yeah, that's a good one. Rosemary, I understand it's getting later. You started late and it's getting later. I appreciate you always being here. You're an encouragement to me and I believe the others here. So take
Thank
care.
you.
Okay, Leslie's got a question. You ready for this one now?
I'm ready.
All right. How do you turn off your creative mind? I'm listening here, Russ. Tell me where the switch is.
Leslie, I have not found it yet. I have not found it yet. Kevin, I mentioned that I started out as a musician, and one of the things that took place in my journey was I fell 3 stories. And I was a drummer, and I fell 3 stories and shattered my arm and my elbow and my wrist, and
Oh,
my new and broke a few things, right? And so I had to change that. So this year, for my birthday, I said I'm gonna, and I've created music in different ways along the way.
right.
So for my birthday, I said I'm gonna create a track a day for the next until I can't do anymore right now, and see where it takes me. So I created a track a day for, I don't know, I created over 100 tracks and put
Oh,
it out
wow.
there, and just creating information and music and doing stuff for myself. And what happens is when I run out of creative juice in one area, I just move it to a new area. So
Mm,
it's just another way of expressing an outlet for me that I enjoy, and it's always brought me energy. It's brought me inspiration to help others and put it out there.
yeah. The value of being a multi-dimensional person, which we all are,
Mm-hmm.
is when we're not on in one area, consider looking at other areas. So, well,
Yeah.
Russ, time flies when you're having fun, and we're right up against the clock. And Ann, fortunately, reminds me to ask your best way to get a hold of you. How can people reach out to you? I am sure that now people are going to be wanting to watch the Pirate broadcast, and so tell us, how do we get a hold of
Probably you can do a search on hashtag pirate broadcast, all one word, and track me down I'm on all the social medias. You can catch me at russjohns.com. Russ@russjohns.com is my email. And just reach out. I'm very accessible. I have a tendency to answer questions and assist people in need, and happy to help wherever I'm able.
Tell us when your podcast aired.
My podcast right now is Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Arizona time, which is currently Pacific Standard Time.
Okay.
Pacific West Coast time.
One of those times, yeah.
One of those times. Arizona doesn't have daylight savings, so sometimes I'm Mountain Time, and sometimes I'm Arizona, West Coast, California time. So
good deal. So that would be a couple hours from now.
Well, actually,
1 hour.
Yeah, it's 1 hour from now.
Okay, so
I'll stream them live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube.
Go get a cup of coffee and come back in an hour on LinkedIn and find Russ. Okay, I think you'll enjoy it. And Russ, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and getting up very early. Y'all remember Russ is very early now. In fact, he was sharing that he took a power nap, and that was his rest night. And so, in fact, you're doing real good, Russ, for just a good power nap. So,
well, I appreciate you, Kevin, and all the work that you do and all the energy that you put into it, because I know what it takes. So, I'm blessed to have you in my community, and I hopefully we can connect again soon. In fact, I think next month you're on my show, so really exchange the conversation in the other direction.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, it's always fun to be in the other seat sometimes. So looking forward to it. Well, thanks everyone. You're a great audience. Appreciate all of you. And you don't know how valuable your presence and your engagement is at any time. And I encourage you to join Wisdom Seeker Live every Monday morning, 8:00 Eastern. And just let's grow in wisdom together and share and encourage each other. So have a great week, everyone. And we will see you back next week.